can't imagine a context outside of Alpha that we would have had a room filled with church people, pastors, agnostics, atheists, burnt out Christians, deconstructing Christians, all saying, you know what? Let's spend like 36 hours together exploring who the Holy Spirit is and open ourselves up to the power and the presence of the Lord. Where does that happen?
It was the last day. It was the last sermon. I was so tired. Like, I felt exhausted. It was a wonderful, wonderful weekend. It was so peaceful and amazing. I just felt like, I don't know if this is gonna happen for me. Like, I just don't know. I feel like I'm maybe fighting against it myself.
I was not feeling it. So I've always, like I said, I had this thing with religion. I thought, this is not what I expected. I'm feeling very closed off again and frustrated by it all again. I was standing there and it was all about the Holy Spirit. And I've no experience with the Holy Spirit. You know, I've been confirmed as a child and all that in the Catholic Church, but I couldn't tell you much more than that. And so I'm standing there and I'm really just wanting to leave. And I'm looking out this beautiful window with the trees in Pennsylvania, and I was like, I need a sign. I really seriously need a sign right now.
And I was looking around and I was like, something is for sure happening in this room right now. Like, no one can deny that. I mean, people were just like weeping. People were on their knees. People were praying for each other. To witness that was like, that you cannot deny that something is going on in this room that is powerful than any of us, more powerful than one of us in here. Like, there's something bigger happening.
Someone from church comes up to me at that moment and it makes me shake. And out of the blue, just literally comes over to me, puts his hand on me and says, can I pray for you?
I was going through like difficult relationship stuff and some health concerns. Someone went up and she said that she would like to pray for somebody that was going through blank, and she basically like described exactly what I was going through. I looked at my friend and I was like, because she was the only person that I had told about it, and we just looked at each other like, oh my gosh. I was like, do you think I should go up? Like, do I take this moment to like be brave? And I went up and she prayed for me. And that experience alone, just having somebody like, first of all, know exactly what I was going through. When she was praying for me, it was as if she was like reading my mind. And she said all of the things that I needed to hear.
The way he was just praying over me was things that I would never have heard before or anything. And that was my sign. Like the whole thing turned like on a dime. It was crazy.
It was the moment, the sign she needed. So there's a wave that hits. It's an initial response. And if you could just maintain the space, stay, allow the Lord to move. What happened was almost like this progressive rise where there's some nervousness, anticipation, is God doing something, and then begins to rise and begins to rise. And as you wait, by the time you're in it, you're like, oh my goodness, we're like waist deep in the presence of the Lord. And now we're starting to swim a little bit and things really begin to roll. I just put it out there. If that was you, would you be so bold as to just show your hand so that we could celebrate with you?
And then the whole room just erupted in this glorious, celebration. And you saw people from our Alpha raise their hands, and we were just like.
We saw the Holy Spirit move in great power, great power. The entire room was shook, I would say.
Exactly what we prayed for happened. We saw one of our women give her life to Christ today. We saw prophetic images and we received words for people, for ourselves, for our church. We asked for the Holy Spirit to move, and He moved.
It was organic, but also so supernatural. It was so clear that there was nothing that anybody said or did that swayed her. It was a complete experience for her, and something that we all experienced as a group. I felt like God was allowing us to see everything that He had done to get us to this moment. And if it was one person, it was one person, and that's so big.
The debrief in the car on the way home was Seth and I just going back and forth, sharing stories of what God did and what we got to witness and the people's lives that we got to see just transformed. We're just so thankful.
There's nothing like getting to be right there when you minister in the power of the Spirit. Everything's an adventure. We're interacting with the God of the universe in real time.
We do a staycation retreat. So we stay in the city, students sleep at host homes, everything happens sort of within the city, which is honestly really great. And I think it's really accessible that parents who maybe aren't familiar with the church or, aren't familiar with us, I think are much more willing to let their child come to something that's just in the city.
The first surprise that we did was that we set up the whole church, like they walked in not knowing what it was gonna be. They walked in, the whole thing was set up like this huge laser tag arena. And we had rented all of this like gear, had like inflatable bunkers and stuff. So they just got to come in and like explore and just have so much fun. So it's like that mixed in with the alpha sessions where we're exploring the Holy Spirit. And then, we have particular moments throughout the weekend that are prayer ministry and laying hands and asking to receive the Holy Spirit. All of these students that would have said that they knew Jesus or were part of like Christian homes, but when you get below the surface, it's like they don't really function in the power of the Holy Spirit.
So we had a student in our youth group who invited a friend. Her friend sort of came a couple of weeks, would miss some weeks, would come, seemed maybe like she wasn't really sure if she was engaged or if she was really responding to the material. Just a little unclear, like how she was responding to what was being shared. Our student just continued to just be her friend and be with her, and she would bring up God and bring up those conversations again and just continued to press in. And our student invited her friend to our retreat. On this retreat, she experiences the Holy Spirit and she gives her life to Jesus.
Just to see the fruit of that whole story come around where like God moves, and there was just an atmosphere where her friend just like opened to God and said yes to him. It's not only sweet for the person that said yes and opened her heart to God, but it's so cool for the student that was willing to like reach out and stay there and not leave and continue to have an open hand when like she's been told like, no, I don't want to go to that thing, Just powerful. I mean, that stuff marks young people for the rest of their lives. I'd only ever done like Let's Go Away retreats. So this is the first time I've ever like really innovated and just tried this, like, what if we were just in the city and how could we create like a memorable experience here? And it worked just as good. Like it was just as powerful. The Holy Spirit doesn't need like light shows and retreat centers and, all the things that we maybe think. And he just comes where he's wanted, and we're just like, come Holy Spirit, like fill our little staycation retreat with your presence. And then he's like, yeah, I got you guys, he's like, he comes through.
We were looking forward to the Unified Alpha experience away. Then a week 4, we had the conversation with our guests. Hey guys, we have this weekend away. What are your thoughts? Alpha, we can make it this short and kind of conclude with this, or we can go longer throughout the whole experience. And they were all in. They were, you know what? Let's take a step back and let's go through the longer experience journey. So coming out of what would have been week 5, we kind of powered through about 3 more weeks through the middle of the summer. And we ended up closing Alpha pretty much at the beginning of kind of having go through the Holy Spirit conversations. It's been refreshing to see how Alpha has been a simple experience that we can come in and have a meaningful conversation with our pastor, not approaching it as yet another program, not yet another ministry, but just as something that we should just have in our core DNA. I think the most impactful thing we can do is just showing up, consistently showing up. And that's been at the heart of why we were running this Alpha. And I think that's been the hardest piece, yes, just to show up and kind of ignore all the noise around us. But at the same time, it's been the most impactful thing. And it's the one thing that we have total dominion and control about. It's just showing up, and that's it. Once you show up and once you start connecting with people, that's ultimately what we're all hungry for, just to connect with people in an intimate and meaningful way. And God does use Alpha, is able to use Alpha to be able to build that relationship and then kind of order everything back to Jesus again.
sometimes like before Alpha happens, I still like panic a little bit when I'm not like 100% sure if there will be anyone showing up. And if no one's showing up, like what's the point for me to cook that much food and like get like groceries ahead of time? So like internally, I still have those struggles. I was very frustrated like for a few times when I see just like the 4 leaders that showed up. So we still watch the video and we still have like a good discussion. And because I like cooked too much, so everyone went home with 3 bags of food. But I think when I was asking about how they feel about it, they were like, to be honest, I think this is a really good time to get to know you and to build a community with you. So I think it's worth it. I even have a friend, he actually lives a few blocks away from me. I told him just consider Alpha as like a dinner session. If you don't have plans for Tuesday nights, just come over, we'll get dinner. And he's like, sure. And he really considered Alpha as a place that he can like safely share about his struggles, questions, and then address some of the core issues that he had within his faith. About halfway, he said, oh, Ophelia, actually, I'm getting baptized this weekend. I don't have to be responsible for people's faith journey, but rather I would love to be there, like to be a cheerleader, to be a witness, to see what God has been doing in their lives, and to celebrate, like when there's a moment like baptism.
The feedback I got from people who have not previously been much in contact with the church is that, so they picked up mainly on the quality that they found for free. Whether that was like how the food was, or it's like, you know, the non-alcoholic cocktails that we had. It's like people walked in not really knowing what to expect. They found an atmosphere that is different to the circles that they're usually at. And that it was the atmosphere that actually spoke to them. So I think the encouragement is to actually put thought into like small details on how you can elevate the experience. What was actually really key to have a celebration night at the end. And that, on the other hand, then was very encouraging, because there were a lot of people where it's like you didn't hear their story. Suddenly you hear like the quiet voice sharing how like impactful it was. We're looking for like the big story, neglecting the smaller stories that are of like same importance, how like God profoundly has been working in their life. And I actually think that there is like an energy and momentum that is gained within those conversations that will then like get you now going for the next one.
You can't have the expectations, you know, like I was so excited about my table. A couple of people in particular had the most intriguing stories. This one woman was just blowing my mind. She was so open and vulnerable. I thought there was this great connection. She never came back. We're down to just like 1 or 2 people here going into week 6. And that's kind of how it goes. And then the other table that we added last minute, that table, the entire table went to the weekend away and like 3 people encountered the Holy Spirit. And that's the table we almost thought like, no, none of them are going to come back week 2. And that's the one where like all the magic happened. So you don't know, you just show up. After the weekend away is such this unique dynamic that happens. On some level, it's really cool and exciting because you're explaining what happens and people are sharing, and there's a lot of closeness with those that went away, but you also still are like rolling the course with people who didn't go away. And so they start hearing stories and testimonies, which we don't shy away from, of people's experience on the weekend. And these are people that they've been journeying with for the last month or 2, but we don't change the model of the Alpha table. It's still good question asking, listening. Nobody's telling other people what to think. It's respectful. The only dynamic shift is some people now have made a tangible shift in who they are. I was reminded again on this Alpha in a deeper way that I often am one of the biggest barriers. I question or carry more doubt sometimes than even the guests. Just create the space to say, is there anybody that wants prayer? Mm-hmm. And time again, I was shocked that people were quite open. And there's just something different about this Alpha. People are continuing to journey and just continue to create opportunity and to just ask.
When we came back from the weekend away, we had one more Sunday,
And we've had our final session, which was so bittersweet, but it reminded us of how simple it is to allow the Holy Spirit to move. That if we just get out of the way and we just meet over food and conversation and a video, that he wasn't just gonna do it at the Weekend Away, he was gonna do it again and again and again. We had a very intimate and intentional last session where it was basically leaving room for God to do whatever he wanted through prayer, silence, worship. And because we had that time, we had someone give their life to Christ. So for us, that last meeting was so special, and probably even more special because they didn't want it to end. They wanted Alpha Part 2 and 3, and they want to go on trips together and do more fun things. So reflecting on those things at the end made us just more hungry for more. We wanted to experience more moments like that. And in New York City, to be honest, I think that's hard to encounter so easily the way that we did. I think it just like there was an acceleration of unity and courage and vulnerability. And because of that, we just wanted more and more. So the high is always the best part to think about. The lows were a lot harder. For us, the hardest part was that our church was actually going to close, and we had no idea that that was something that Legacy was going to have to experience.
This was probably the hardest Alpha that I've ever done.
Do I like evaluate my personal performance based on like how many people showed up, or like did anyone become a Christian?
I'm sitting in a room filled with people that are like hungry and like ready to be there. I needed to listen to what Jesus was actually doing in this space versus like what I wanted to see happen.
We didn't get, 50 people, but we had the one, and it was amazing.
Just to have one person give their life to Christ was huge for us.
Yes, all of this was done and would have been done even if you were the only person in the room.
Every single night we would just look at each other like, this is what it's about. Seeing this person step one step closer to Jesus.